Welcome to Those Are the Girls with Mallory and Friends, the podcast where we explore life, career, relationships, and pop culture through a Christian conservative perspective. Each episode, we dive into deep topics that matter most to us women, from navigating your career with grace and confidence to watering meaningful relationships grounded in faith. We're here to empower you to embrace your femininity and stand firm in your beliefs. We'll also tackle the latest in pop culture, discussing how they align or clash with our values. Let's uncover the truth and encourage each other to live boldly and authentically. So whether you're at home or on your commute, get ready for some fabulous conversations. Grab your teacup, pour yourself some tea. Come on, girlies, we're changing culture. The views expressed on this podcast are our own and do not reflect our employers. Enjoy! Welcome to Other Girlies and Cubicles. This series are for Christian girlies showing up in boardrooms, break rooms, and beige office chairs. We're living a set-apart life in a world that wants us to blend in. Let's be real, no one really talks about what it's like to be a Christian woman in the workspace. How do we carry our confidence in these spaces and we still want to thrive? Whether you're clocking in your 9 to 5 or dreaming of something more, this is your space to talk work, worth, and walking boldly in your calling. Because like Martin Luther said, the Christian shoemaker does his duty not by putting little crosses on shoes, but by making good shoes, because God is interested in good craftsmanship. Your work matters and how you show up matters. And yes, we can still be set apart, even in cubicles. Everyone, you are listening to Those Are the Girls. I'm Mal, your girl pal.
I'm Morgan.
And we are changing culture and bringing back traditional values. Welcome to another episode of Other Girlies and Cubicles, where I am talking to my friends and various people about what it means to be a Christian and a conservative in a job in corporate. Like I've said before, we don't really get a lot of those podcasts. We get a lot about homemaking. We get a lot about homesteading, but there's not a lot about if that's just not your path. So that's what this series is meant to be. And I am so excited to have my friend Morgan Squat Triglia over to discuss this with you guys. She is a management consultant turned business leader, and now she serves as a director of her family's company. Before stepping into the family business, she built her career as a consultant specializing in organizational change management, working with some of the top banks in the U.S. Along the way, she's been featured in magazines and recognized with awards for her work. Today, Morgan blends her consulting background with her leadership role, focusing on growing the business, supporting her team, and carrying forward the legacy of a family-owned company. I also want to point out, Morgan is someone that I know in real life. Sometimes I'll have people on, and they're people who I become friends with over like Instagram or stuff like that. But I can say for a fact, Morgan is real, and she is so together, and she's so smart. Love her, and I'm just really excited to have you on. Okay, Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mal.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about, you are a very accomplished person. I guess let's talk about that. How did you, when you were growing up, did you want to, what was your goal in life? And then how did you get where you are today, I guess you can say?
So when I was little, I don't know, I didn't really have a goal. I kind of went everywhere. Whenever I was in high school, I knew I wanted to do something business. Whenever I was in college, I went to ECU, go Pirates, and I specialized in business management. So that was my major. Management is all about people, and there's always going to be the need to manage people, lead teams, kind of work together. So I think consulting kind of found me. So again, I didn't want to be an accountant. I didn't want to, be in finance, but I really wanted to work with people and to really grow things. And I wasn't really sure what that meant. So, I actually found a job at a consulting firm. It was a boutique consulting firm, and they had what they called the analyst program. So in the analyst program, I was able to go straight out of college and find a lot of different areas of consulting or business management or financial management, and really kind of learn different areas of industry. So it actually turned out really well. I found out that I have a passion for all of this. I got to do everything from robotic process automation to organizational change management, financial crimes. And I was traveling. I got to go to Portland and Texas and Kentucky, and, I got to go to all these different places. And I remember when I was little, I just remember seeing this lady in an airport, and she was wearing this she was a pink business suit, and she was wearing heels. And she was on the phone, and she just looked so important. And I said, I don't know what she does, but I want to do that. And so there was this one kind of little aha moment where I was in an airport, I was on the phone, walking in here, just clip clopping in my heels. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually that girl now.
Wait, I
So
love that. I love that so
yeah,
much.
it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I was really good at it. I had a lot of great leaders, a lot of good teammates, and a lot of people, above, beside, and below me. So, after about 8 years of that, my parents came to me and said, we're getting older, not old. I know they're going to watch this. Y'all are not old. So, yeah, my mom wanted to back away from the business, and she did all of the management side of things, kind of running it. And she said, look, either it goes to you or the business goes to someone else. So, the biggest thing for me was to honor my father and mother, and the business was always the neediest child. So I thought, if I never do this, I'll totally regret it. But why not, leave the corporate world and go into the family business? So I've been there for 2 years, like last week or something. So
Wow.
that's where I am now.
Congratulations. So, rewind a little bit. In college, what was your major?
Business management.
Okay, so when you picked business management, what were some of the skills that you learned that you kind of took over to this new job? Well, to the job you had before your parents' business.
It's kind of weird because I learned more about working with people than I did the actual curriculum, if that makes sense. So I would be in
Yes.
entrepreneurialism, but I learned more about how to navigate people or how to build a strong team. So because everything after like your sophomore or junior year, everything is a group project. Everything is, group management, yada, yada. So because of that, I learned how people who were very much like me, we would get a lot of things done, but we would miss the creative side. I'm very type A, super type A, like almost to a fault. And if you had too many type A's, then you didn't have a lot of the creativity, some of the relaxing piece. You didn't have that, balance there. So I learned more about how all of our unique, I guess, preferences or styles or just like innate and natural, ways of working and ways of being really help mesh together. And having that kind of like diverse outlook on life and the way that you like operate really works together. So I think I learned more about that in terms of management rather than curriculum. I did have one or two professors who I really looked up to, and and I looked up to them because they were really big on be your own hero, be your own self. I'm going to give you the things that you need to learn, but it's up to you to learn it. And I've always, growing up, that's how my parents always were. It's like, here's this thing, you have to go learn it and do it in order to get the most out of it.
And how do you motivate yourself to do that? / have enough discipline?
I don't know. Part of it is because I am type A and I was always raised like, no matter what you do, I think it's Colossians 3:23. Anything that you do, you're doing it for the Lord, not for yourself. So do it to the best of your abilities. And I took that to heart when I was little because I would kind of feel like if I don't make my bed, then I'm disappointing God. Or, this is the right thing to do. So I need to make sure that I continue doing the right things. And those kind of turned into habits. So early on, my parents always instilled that in me. Our house was always spotless. I never understood what people meant when they're like, oh, we need to clean up the house. I'm like, you don't have to vacuum for me. Like, no, like I need to make my bed and put dishes away. To me, we always had that done because that was instilled for me at a very early age. And that probably speaks to some of the type A that I have right now.
Yeah, that sounds so. Is your whole family, like even your brother, is everybody type A?
Yeah, I think there's like a spectrum of type A, right?
Yeah, fair.
There's the super diligent, this has to be done. There's also the, these things need to be done, but, the world's not going to burn if, without it. But I think we have a good range. But overall, yeah, we all kind of operate very similarly.
That's nice. I feel like my mom always calls me type A, which I think in her mind, like certain things, because I do like things a certain way, and I am very much like, okay, if this is the rule, then that's the rule. Just certain things but then like, there's aspects. I mean, if you see my car, I'm definitely like kind of a type B. So I say I'm type A and a half. And I do like if we have planned for X, Y, and Z, I do kind of like it to go by that plan. I don't freak out. I have friends that kind of freak out. I don't freak out if it doesn't go by that plan. But in my head, I'm definitely like, okay, guys, this was not what we said we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay. Well, that's good that you have that kind of innately in you about the discipline and motivation, because I think that's what a lot of people kind of lack in general. Not necessarily lack, but and I know I'm working on the discipline part, like being Yeah, I guess being more disciplined is truly what I feel like. I'm very motivated. It's just like the discipline aspect of it, especially when things, you're working really hard for something and it doesn't go your like how it needed to go, and then still like persevering like that, I really struggle with. So that's good that you have that kind of instilled in you. I think a lot of people, especially in college, when you graduate or like when you're almost graduating, sometimes you have this whole thing planned out and then it doesn't go that way, and then you're kind of like, oh, what do I do from here?
Yeah, I think the more that you do hard things or the more you make yourself be disciplined, the easier it gets. Like I remember I was in middle school and I was so tired. I didn't want to get up. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up. Well, I turned off that little thought in my brain that I was like, we're not thinking, my body's just going to do. So I'd get up, go brush my teeth, do everything. And I'm like, I'm not going to think about what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it because I know I need to.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So let's kind of talk a little bit about how it was when you were working in the corporate world. When you were working in the corporate world. So, another way that Morgan and I know each other is we both are involved in local GOP politics. So when you were in the corporate world, how did that, like, were you very open about like your politics and your faith, or was it kind of, and we live in like kind of like a liberal city. I say liberal because my brother and I talk about this all the time. I feel like the circles that my brother and I are in isn't all that liberal, except for like some of the creative things that we do. It really isn't all that liberal. So it does kind of feel weird to say we live in a liberal city, but like once we leave our little bubbles, it's definitely liberal. Anyway, all that to say, how were you vocal about it? How did you navigate that?
So I kept everything very close to the chest. When I first graduated college and started everything, I mean, my go-to is to not say anything at all. Like, I'll be very quiet. If I'm not sure what to say, if I'm uncomfortable, so I didn't tell anyone about my political beliefs. I would tell them that I'm from Charlotte, went to ECU, all of that stuff. But I wouldn't talk about my personal life. I wouldn't talk about my religious beliefs. I kept everything really quiet. And as I got more comfortable, I guess, in that atmosphere, I started talking a little bit more about it, but more so about, I'd pray at lunch and I wouldn't hide that. Or, a cross necklace. I never hid that either. But I never went the political route. And then I actually started getting involved in politics in 2020 when we're during COVID in a lockdown, so that I zipped my lip and I did not say anything at all. And I remember distinctly the corporate came out and said, hey, we're going to start including pronouns in our bios. You don't have to, but you can, and it's encouraged. And at that point I knew, I said, all right, well, who has their pronouns in their bios? So you can kind of see some of the delineation between political beliefs there, which is really obvious. I never did mine. There was no need to. But I mean, some of my friends and a lot of the people I look up to, they did, but I never faulted them for that. But that was kind of a tell, if you will.
Yeah.
And I actually had one client who it was 2021 and everyone was getting vaccinated. And I personally, I'm not vaxxed. I did not get the COVID vaccine. I've had other vaccines. I've actually had a lot of adverse reactions to them from a young age until now. So I did not. But every single call we would join, that was the topic of conversation. You have Zoom calls with probably 10, 15 people on, and it was, oh, hey, Morgan, so, which one did you get? I'm like, oh, I haven't got anything yet. And they talk about, oh, I got the Pfizer, or, oh, I got the J&J, or, oh, so-and-so is missing because they got their second round. Oh, okay. And that would, like, every single call for, like, 2 months is how, like, everything started.
That's kind of inappropriate.
Well, it was more like everyone's doing it. Of course you're getting vaccinated. So no, not yet. And I would never be like, no, not ever. Cause oh my gosh, the world would stop. Like it would just be like a huge like crickets movement. But there were a lot of ways that I could have engaged in that. But I kept everything quiet, really close to my chest.
So my next question is, so I think there is definitely a time and place to do that. I think it sounds like you did the right thing for what you had to do. What do you think, are people listening, they're trying to decide if they should say something, if they should not say something, what kind of led you to be like, you know what, I'm going to kind of be quiet about that. But at the same time, you were still doing actions like praying. And I think to me, the praying at lunch and then not doing the pronouns speaks volumes. Oh, and not getting vaccinated speaks volumes. I think that's a witness in and of itself. So when do you think people should, when people are trying to consider, when do you think they should be like, hey, you know what, I'm just going to be a quiet witness? Because I do think there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of it is just focus on the mission. The mission at the time is to have the meeting about X and Y to get these objectives completed. And me talking about whether I'm vaccinated or not has nothing to do with that. Yeah. Now, there would be some times where some folks would, there was one individual who was transitioning and they came up to me and tried to talk politics, really saying, "Oh, well, I can't go to Florida because I'm not allowed there."
Mm.
I thought it was something funny, like some spring break story. I'm like, "Oh, what happened? What'd you do on spring break?" And they're like, "No, because you can't say gay, or the governor there won't let me." And I was like, "Well, you're 18, so you can do what you want. Let's not blow this out of proportion." And
Right.
I would kind of push back a little bit because we're in the break room, we're not in a meeting, we don't even work together, we're just in the same vicinity. But as soon as it started getting more political, and then, "Oh, well, Trump did da 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 da," I said, "All right, I'm going to stop you right there. This is no time or place. I do not do politics at work at all. Even if we agree, even if we disagree, I'm not talking politics with you." So I think there are times when you can stand your ground and be really blatant about it. There are other times that you should, and you can talk more about your religious beliefs in the right context. Because when you're working, you're not just straight up working. You have people around you. You're talking. You're talking about your weekend plans or what have you. Or whenever like someone got deathly ill, or someone's spouse died, I would say please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Whatever God you pray to. So there are times like that where it was very you can say those things, and it was really comfortable. And I even had a friend who was he was Jewish, but he was Hasidic Jewish. So
Mm.
he would
Wow.
read. He would read at lunch. He would pray. He wore. He was very much like embodying the entire religion,
And this
and
is in
everyone
Charlotte?
respected.
He was in
Yeah,
Charlotte?
in
Oh,
Charlotte.
wow. I feel like I
He was
never
funny too.
see Hasidic Jews in Charlotte ever.
Really? No, he was
Yeah.
great. I really enjoyed him. He was a good leader. He was very, it was different to see a different perspective. And we would talk about religion openly because he kind of wore that right on his sleeve, and it
Mhm.
almost made it more approachable. So being
Yeah.
able to talk about religion and how like that transferred, or what have you, I think being open about it really helps other people relate to you, because when we would go on trips, whenever we were traveling, he had to eat kosher. So we would make sure
Mm.
that whatever hotel we were staying around had had either kosher options, or like he would always go to like a CVS and get like snacks or something like that. Or whenever we go to a bar, we want to make sure that the bar served Heineken. So there are things that, you don't really think about as, well, we have to tiptoe around this. It's like, no, he put it out there, and this is his lifestyle, and we support and appreciate him as a person. So here's what we're
Yeah.
going to do. So there are a lot of different ways where it is and it is not appropriate. But I think when you go to the human aspect, that's when you can be a little more free.
Mhm. I like that a lot because, and I think about that. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. There's certain commentators that'll be like, no matter what, if I'm ever talking with someone that's trans, I won't ever use their pronouns. But the reality is they never run into people that are actually trans, other than like, arguing with college students. And then B, like sometimes it really, if you're in here for a meeting, if you're doing a specific task, it really doesn't do anyone good to like make a big deal out of it. If
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other ways you can go about it instead of just being blatantly, I mean, you can say their name if you don't feel, there's just so many other ways. You don't have to make a big thing out of it. And I think sometimes, and that's something I've learned as I've gotten older. I think that is something that you do learn when you get older, and you become more mature. You don't have to um, always be the one, arguing back and forth with people. It's okay when there's a time and a place, but sometimes it is good to kind of be like, this is not appropriate to talk about, or, once again, the silent, like not doing the pronouns thing. I think that's also really good. So now that you're in this current job, and you're working with your family for your, how do you say it? With your family for your family? You are the family.
Both, all.
Okay. Now that you're doing that,
Mhm.
how do politics come up at all? Like in the business? Is it like, how do you guys navigate that?
They do, actually. More so. So we're a small insurance agency over in Huntersville, North Carolina. We do personal and commercial. So we have a variety of clients. And we have about 20 employees, and everyone is in the office at least like 2 days a week, typically 2 days a week, 3 days at home overall. And, it comes up just in natural conversation, or like my brother has like a Trump mouse pad, or people will ask, like, they know that I'm involved in local politics. My dad he's not very outspoken, but he's not very quiet. Like, it's very clear. He has like a few little Trump things, and he has the Republican red wine, the 45-47, that he gives out to clients. Yeah, it's not nearly as corporate. There are some employees who whenever we're talking, they'll kind of like tiptoe around it a little bit and then kind of get, oh, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So it's not one of those like, we are a Republican, company, not by any means, but we have open dialogue. And there are a lot of folks there who are more left leaning or on the, strong Democrats who we don't really think or talk about it, or they'll have civil discourse and say, well, I think this or I think that. Okay. And you kind of, walk on.
Yeah. I really like what you said about the having a civil discourse, because I think that's the reality. Online, it is the opposite of civil. It is the absolute worst. Can't recommend it at all. But I do think in real life, for the most part, it can be pretty civil. I think a lot of people are just kind of they're trying to just live their life. And most people don't get worked. I think what happens, people get worked up. And I think people don't really get worked up. If you're on the job, you're making passing comments. You're probably not like trying to have a full blown like debate. You're not sitting at home with nothing else to do. So, okay, well that's really cool though. Now, do you prefer working for your family's business or corporate and pretend like they're not listening?
Pretend like they're not listening. Okay. There are certain aspects that I like about either one of them. They're very different.
Okay.
I liked the go, the hustle and bustle of corporate a lot. I liked having a lot of really smart people. Like, I was in the room with people who had they were doctors of like cybersecurity science, or
Wow.
they were super high up in all these top US banks, and they're making decisions that impact like millions and millions and millions of people. It was really, really cool to learn from all of them. And that really helped motivate me. Whereas on the family business side, I really feel like I'm making more of an impact on the day to day of people's lives. We'll have someone will call me and say, "Hey, I'm a business owner. 3 of my guys just got T-boned by an 18-wheeler. What do I do?" There, you can jump into action and really help facilitate, that people are in crisis, or you're helping protect their business, you're helping protect their assets, and it's more personal, I would say. So it's more of the really being able to relate to people and to really help them on a way where I knew I was helping people in the corporate side, but it was more about helping the people who needed to make a bigger impact for the country at large. So I like either, both ways.
Yeah.
I like traveling and being able to see different cities. While I was with some folks there traveling in corporate, I don't miss the affinity groups or we're going to the Pride Parade. Why aren't you coming? I don't miss that. But on the family business side, I love that. The family dog is there every day. Her name is Kinsey. She's the light of my life. She's there, and we do a lot of fun things together as a group. So yeah, I think there are positives and negatives to both of them, but they're very different. I can't really compare them.
Cool. Well, I think it's really awesome too how, and you're still so young that you've seen like both sides of, I guess, truly of just working in general. Technically, like working for yourself, entrepreneurship versus, going corporate. And I think it's good to that's really cool that you got to see both sides, and it's good to have both of the perspectives.
Yeah, I think if I had gone the other way, it would be complete culture shock. I mean, it was complete culture shock, like complete. It was nothing like I had expected, and I didn't really know what to expect. I kind of had a few. I try not to make assumptions before I go into any situation, but it was culture shock. But I think I would have rather gone corporate first and then family.
Yeah,
because I can use everything that I learned from the corporate side and apply it to the family business.
I was going to say, I bet that experience really helped you, even if it's not like one-to-one, it probably really helps you in this business too. Because the thing that's really good about corporate when people are trying to decide, should I go corporate or do my own thing? The thing that's really good about corporate sometimes, not all the time, is it does feel as if it's like a well-run machine. It's been going on so long, so they know the kinks and things like that. And you can kind of take that but you can kind of take that to like nonprofits. I'm saying this as someone who's like with my job, I don't share my job, but my job, like with that, it feels like it's more of a well-run machine versus like some nonprofits I've worked for before. It's kind of like, oh my, okay, well, this needs to go there. You didn't know that. So, but both are great. I'm not knocking either one, but I think it's good to have that corporate knowledge and kind of bring it to something that's not as corporate.
And not only the corporate side of things, but there were just so many different opportunities and outlets where I could learn. I could take webinars, I could take seminars, We had a bunch of trainings. I was really exposed to a wide area of, subject matter expertise that I can apply. So corporate isn't all that bad.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes people have to we have to decide for ourselves what we think is best for us. I know, and I'm saying this as someone who is even, thinking about my career and my future. I'm 30 and just trying to figure out directions and stuff at this point. Like, you have to decide what you think is best for you and not allow, a bunch of other people's opinions about what you should do dictate that. I think that corporate and women working 9 to 5s, that has just gotten such a bad rep, or even going to college, which, some people don't need to go to college because of their jobs, but I want to be honest with you, the vast majority of people do. And I can tell you from someone with a bachelor's, having a bachelor's doesn't mean as much as it used to. Anyway, all that to say, as you can see, everyone, I am going through something, but all that to say, I think we just have to make sure we're doing what's best for us. So sometimes, corporate gets a bad name, but sometimes that 9 to 5 is good and it's stable, health insurance, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how it was in the office expressing your femininity. If you guys listened to the last episode, Other Girls in Cubicles episode, we talked kind of about elegance and things like that when it goes into the office, and about how sometimes when you're the woman in the office, you might end up being the person who decorates, which can be kind of annoying, but at the end of the day, that is more of a feminine trait, and maybe embrace that instead of, wanting to beat them over the head. That's kind of what we talked about. So from your perspective, I want to hear, how was it? Were there a lot of women in your field? And then how did you kind of express your femininity? What did you think about, your wardrobe and all that stuff?
Yeah, so there are a lot of routes I can take here, so I apologize if I ramble.
Ramble on.
So I'll say that we had a very female-facing forward company.
Oh, cool.
We did have a lot of females. It was predominantly male, but I mean, when you look at the not political landscape, but the corporate landscape, most of the people in position are men. And kind of I was going to go with that. Okay, we'll go the other way. So there are a lot of men in power. Everyone knows that. That's how it's always been.
Yeah.
But I think the company that I was at was they saw the benefit of having that diverse kind of strength or skill set. So it's the way that I compare it or describe it is, if we're going to have some kind of party and it's going to be in the conference room, I need the men to move the chairs and the tables and to do some of the technology over there. I am going to do the decorations. I am going to think about the person who's coming to the event, where we're going to sign in first, or what music is going to be playing. And if you put those two pieces together, you have a really good event. You have the people who have their strengths, whether the males have their strengths, the females have their strengths, and together, as God designed, right? You have a really good output. So the same thing is in business. I was in organizational change management, which is all about the people. My biggest concentration was in people and organization change. And that was kind of going back to what Jordan Peterson says, right? Men like things, women like people. And women are more agreeable. We have more of the softer side, and we're more empathetic. Whereas the men are a little more, drive hard, drive forceful. And neither one is right or wrong or indifferent. They're just different. And if you pair them together, then you have a better outcome. So back what I was saying when I was in college and I learned how to kind of build different teams, having that mix of men and women was really critical, because you had the women who were thinking about the customer experience, right? But you had the men who were thinking about the bottom line and the decisions and the money side. So there was a lot of that I think everyone really recognized, that we all have different strengths, and that was really good to kind of live and to feel out. On the femininity side, I wore dresses and heels every day. I still do.
Love it.
I just started wearing pants a year ago because I got injured my ankle. I injured my ankle and had to start wearing pants.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I wore pearls and diamonds and dresses, and my I guess my identity or my brand was, Morgan's gonna have her hair all big and curled, and she's gonna be all done up and wear dresses and heels. People knew where I was walking because they could hear my heels. So that helped differentiate a little bit as well, because we don't want to be, women don't need to be in the sea of gray, black suits.
Agreed.
We want to be out there wearing pink and being girly and really expressing yourself. And that was a way that I did. And I mean, even today, I'm overdressed at most occasions, as you know.
Love it. I support it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So I think I should have my thoughts together a little bit more on this because I can go so many directions. I think the men always were able to, not always, but I think men were able to step back and listen to the females. But I think the females may have sometimes overpowered the men. And it was
Mm,
this weird dichotomy of seeing how we specifically in the in the corporate world or in the banking world were trying to put women forward, and then women would just straight up shut men down because solely that they were men. It was really strange to see. Like I think that I definitely benefited from, we'll say affirmative action, because I was chosen to go on panels and speaking engagements where I had like four or five other people who were counter to me. They were males and they could probably speak on it better, but they wanted to have a female up there. So
mm,
it almost felt like I didn't necessarily earn it. If they got A's, I got like a B. But if you're going to put someone out there who knows their stuff, you should pick them. But because I was a female, I was chosen. So that was kind of the
interesting.
weird part of it. And then you'd have the super feminists saying we don't need these men or they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, well, why are you going that route? Like of course they know what they're talking about.
Right.
They may not know everything, but like we can work together. So it was kind of weird seeing that shift of fully male dominated all the way to not only female dominated but also female dominated and forget men, we don't need them.
I want to make a comment on that really quick. I think a lot of that is women overcompensating and insecurity. I
Mm-hmm.
think they feel like they shouldn't be there, so they're trying to overcompensate. And I think that there is something to men typically are the leaders, typically are the ones that are put in charge. And if you're a woman and you feel, we'll say corporate, and you feel as if you should be you're doing just as good as them, I think you should have the same opportunities for sure. And, one of the things that I was listening to a podcast and it was talking about how, like, a lot of times how a lot of the men ended up hiring men, and there's always a lot of men, is because when you're interviewing someone and you kind of sometimes think, okay, can I see myself in them? And if you're another man, 9 times out of 10, you see yourself in another man. So,
Uh-huh.
that is how it is, whatever. But I think women, when we are in these things, I think it's really good for us to make sure that we check our egos and we don't have chips on our shoulder. Because I
Right.
think that is what makes you bitter. That is when you go from like, okay, I'm working hard, I'm going to do my best, to we don't need men. Like, we're so much better. Like, if you could just, like, at the end of the day, what really matters is your output. How are you doing? Are you even better than the man you're saying that you're better than? Like, have you done better than them type of thing? I
Mm-hmm.
think so many women just kind of go into these things already with like chips on their shoulder, already feeling like they're already down below. So then when you feel that way, you're going to act that way and you're going to become bitter and turns into something like really gross.
Yeah, I think there's also a generation of women. A few of them are actually my close friends and mentors that for so long they were, they were in the background and they were
Mm,
working so hard. And I totally understand that and I get that and I know that was a real thing. Like you were saying with the interviews, men will connect with men. They're like, oh, okay, I kind of see myself in you, or I can see myself working with you because we get it. Whereas
yeah.
women, it's a little bit different. It's like I can see me working with you, but also I can't go get a beer with you or you're not going to come golfing with me, you
Right.
know?
Which is
But I
true. I
do think,
won't continue.
but I do think that there is that generation of female leaders who have fought so hard and now they're up there. And it's almost like you have to rewire a little bit to kind of step back and say, okay, well, I'm here. I'm at the same table now. And maybe I need to kind of rewire a little bit to, kind of change your own bias in a way.
Mhm. Yeah. I totally agree. And then it doesn't help that, like, right now, I mean, I think it's gotten better, but like it's specifically, like 2014 to maybe honestly like 2020, culture really did shift. So then people, they're already feeling like they have to prove themselves, so then they finally get to the top. And then also everyone else around them is like, yeah, that's right. Down with men. Like, it's probably harder. You can't get out of that if everyone else around you is telling you you're right. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also that weird piece of it's okay to make a joke about like, oh, men, like, oh, never give that to a man. But like on the other side, if they're like, oh, women, then like everyone just like, jumps
Yeah.
right at you and down your throat. Whereas I joke about both, and I can joke about both.
I was gonna say, I definitely do
Along with both
both.
sides because I can see both. I can joke about both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that also I think about now, some people might disagree with this, but even like workplace, like romances, back in the day, one of the places, if you didn't meet someone in college, you'd meet them at work. And now it is a little bit uncomfortable, making comments. Okay, I'm going to scratch that part. But you get what I'm trying to say though, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to cut that part out. But a lot of things. Yeah, you're right. Let me go ahead and clap to remember. So yeah, next question. What is something that you wish someone told you before you went into your corporate job?
I don't know, because it depends on who would have told me.
Fair.
I think that, I guess if I could go back, I would want to be more, I want to be more human, more soft, because I put on a very, very guarded front. Again, like, when I first started, I didn't tell anyone political beliefs. I didn't tell anyone, like, even, my fiance's name. I didn't say nothing. Like, it was very, like, nope. I remember when I got married, I was leaving, for my honeymoon, and they said, oh, we can't wait to see pictures. And I was thinking, why would I ever show you pictures?
Yeah.
It was so weird.
I feel you on that with, sorry, not to cut you off. I do kind of feel you with that with like coworkers. Like I do feel, and I need to be better at that, but with coworkers, I am a little bit like, I don't, like we work together. I don't know, like where is the line? I don't necessarily know if I want you in my personal life. Like we're coworkers.
Yeah.
I feel you on that.
But the more that I guess, progressed and got more comfortable and gotten more leadership positions, the more I thought I can be a better leader if I'm more vulnerable and more humanizing, I guess. So I remember I was chosen to be a part of this marketing campaign called the Game Changers, and they put forth the best of the best from the company. And the first interview I did was very much about me. They said, tell us about like your success and everything, and it was all about me. I did this, I want to grow, I want to be here and there. And when I reflect on that, I did a different campaign and it was completely different. It was like 2 years after this, and it was all about my team and my growth and how my growth helped spur their growth. And it turned more of what used to be, how can I be better, into how can I make my team better. So I think if I had started more of the humanistic aspect earlier, I would have been a little softer, more approachable, and I could have started kind of building those relationships earlier on the softer level rather than just be, hard focused.
I have like two more questions. The next question I want to ask is something that actually I wanted to know, and then someone else kind of submitted as well. Work-life balance. How do you do it? Is it possible? Because you do a lot of things too. What are your tips for that?
I would say set boundaries. Be very clear on your boundaries, communicate them. The more that you talk about your boundaries to your coworkers, the more that they're going to be cognizant of that and respect it. So there are boundaries you can set for yourself too. Like whenever I was, I'll probably say 3 or 4 years in, work was everything. That was my identity. That's what I did. Like I was kind of finding my own self and my strengths. I was really good. I kept getting promoted and all of this, but my email was on my phone and I'd check it all the time. And I started realizing that all my conversations were about work. And because I was just climbing, just doing so well. And I got a new phone and I didn't put my email on it. I said, maybe this is a good boundary I can take because, I don't want to be out on a Sunday or Saturday looking at, whatever pops up in my email. So maybe this is good. And I don't have any kind of email on my phone at all, any work email at all. Because also when you're looking at it, you're kind of passively looking. And whenever I was passively looking at times, I would miss things. So if I knew I had a laptop in front of me and I could dedicate that time, then it would be better for me and for the client and for, whatever's going on at work. So I think that's the tip that I have. People, like, their eyes get so big, like, what? I could never not have my work email on my phone. Like, well, you can, and it's probably better for your mental health because of that. But communicate your boundaries. If you are saying, look, guys, this coming Friday is going to be crazy for me. I'm probably going to go on Do Not Disturb. So anything that you need or you think you're going to need from me before the end of the week, get it to me now. Then that expectation is set up front. So set expectations, communicate your boundaries, and then ask other people what they do. Like, how do you separate work-life balance? Because it's really different saying, me with email, but we may have some folks and some listeners who don't really communicate through email, they may have a completely different work dichotomy. So I think ask the people and your leaders who you look up to what they do and how you can replicate that, or at least try it,
Yeah. And something that so for my job, I have a work phone, and that has been a blessing. Anything work related, I do on that phone. Anything personal, I do on my personal phone. I keep those two things separate. And for me, that has helped me with boundaries on the weekends. Like if I'm not scheduled to do something on the weekend, I really don't have my phone with me. And then I realize if it's like a major emergency, everybody has my personal phone. You can call my personal phone. But like if it's something that's not an emergency, 'cause sometimes I'll get emails from people. I've gotten emails. I've come in the next day. I got an email at someone at 3 something in the morning. And if I had my phone with me as soon as I woke up, because I do check my personal email every morning. I do like Instagram, TikTok, and email. And if I had saw that, then I'm like, forget, I don't have this with me. So it's just, to me, I think if you can have a separate phone, even for like your work, that would be really good for helping for boundaries. That has
That's
helped
kind
me.
of how I did that with like the laptop. I was like, look, my phone is my personal phone. Anything that I do on my work laptop, that's where work is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a good way. But when it comes to work-life balance, it's really, what is that balance that you're trying to achieve, and then don't use it as an excuse, because there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, well, I can't work past it's 5 o'clock. I have to go right now." Where it's like, okay, well, if you're just finish the thing that you're doing, if you're like 2 or 3 or 5 minutes later, that's okay. That's not
Right.
not sticking to your work-life balance. Just kind of gauge it based on the industry that you're in and the social or the political norms.
Yeah. Okay. That's also a good point too, because I do think when it comes to work, kind of going back to what we were saying about Colossians, I think there has to be boundaries. Like I said, for me personally, especially on like Sundays, I really don't like to do anything work related Sundays. If you notice, I don't even really post on the podcast page unless it's something about church or something like that. Like it's really good to have those boundaries, but I do think making sure you are putting forth good work and you're being a good steward and you're being a good employee, a good member of society, is sometimes having to go, I don't want to say the extra mile, because then it sounds like I'm saying stay till 7 if your work is off at 5. I'm not saying that, but like, if you need to finish up an email, like there's been times where like I've stayed maybe till like 5:15 because someone says, I can't get there right before 5. Can you please? And, obviously I'm a human. I want to go home, but, this is part of being the job. This is customer service. Like, it's okay. I don't think it's crossing your boundaries. I think it's actually kind of noble to be like, okay, you know what? I'll stay a little bit longer. Come as quickly as you can, but like I'll stay a little bit longer if you need to, type of thing. I think sometimes we forget that, especially those of us like millennials that are very much like, this is my private time and this is that. I think sometimes we forget, like you said, staying till 5:05 to respond to an email is not going to that's not crossing the boundary. Staying till 7:05, maybe, but 5:05, that's not crossing the boundary.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point, it's also giving people grace. I mean, because
Yeah.
and God asked us to rest. The whole, the Sabbath is, rest on that day, keep it holy. We cannot perform our best if we're not at our personal best. So if I
Yeah.
am exhausted, I've been working a 13-hour day, and I'm going to try to get 14 the next day, I'm not going to be nearly as effective or impactful. So I need to, make that balance of prioritizing myself so that you can perform, in that manner.
Yeah. Very good point. And then let's see, kind of last-ish question. If someone is listening and they are trying to decide, should they go the corporate route? Should they go the entrepreneur route? Should they really just go and kind of, stay at home I don't want to say like stay at home until they find a husband, because that sounds like but there's so many routes you can go. Like, what advice would you give if someone's trying to decide like what path they should take?
Yeah, my first advice, and it seems kind of cliche, is just to really pray on it and seek the Lord for guidance, because He's gonna. Everything is up to Him, anyways.
True.
So the more that you look about it, pray about it, find different outlets. I talk about having a personal board of directors. So you have these people who are on your personal board of directors, where you ask advice and you get counsel, and you kind of weigh pros and cons, and ask those really trusted people that are in your circle. But at the same time, you also want to make sure you're being challenged. Don't do something because it's the easiest or because it's the cheapest. do something that's going to really challenge you and get you outside of your comfort zone. And if you have like a longer term plan where you think here right now this step A is a good stepping stone for me to get all the way to Z, then take that stepping stone, having the end in mind. But don't be afraid to make small decisions, which later on will have a bigger impact for you. So I think it's kind of taking it day by day, chunk by chunk. Focus on the mission, focus on your goal, and anything that it will take to help get you there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Morgan, for coming on. If anyone is like, hey, I really like this Morgan girl, can I ask her for advice? Is there like an Instagram they can follow and reach out? Or do you want me to reach out to me and then I'll reach out to you?
Probably the latter.
Okay.
I keep my Instagram private. Part of that is because keeping the political stuff secret, the corporate stuff secret, not secret, kind of hidden. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This is all about, the corporate chicks and kind of keeping Christianity in there. I guess the last thing that I'll say is that, men or God didn't create us to be knockoff men. He created us to be bold and energetic and, inquisitive women. So, find the balance and, appreciate either side and let him be your guide.
Yeah, I love that. That I will be clipping. Thank you again, Morgan, for coming on. If you guys have questions you want to ask her, just reach out to me and I'll get it over to her. And then if you like this episode, make sure you rate, review, subscribe. Let us know if you're going corporate or if you think you're going to go to a family business. Just let us know which direction you're going to go in. And any questions that you have, please feel free to leave them in the comments on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening. And please share this with all of your corporate girlies and people who are in college and they're trying to think about their next steps. I think this is just a really good episode. Just kind of think about like your future and what direction you want to go in. Yeah, I guess anything else you want to add? Any more last words?
I don't think so. I mean, I can ramble on for a while, but no, just follow your heart, follow the path that God's putting in front of you, and keep listening to those other girls.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Have a good day, night, evening, however, wherever you're listening. Bye.